Welcome to So True, and today's devotional is entitled, It's Off to Work We Go, and it's based on Proverbs 14:23. Like all good Israelites, the writer of Proverbs 14:23 assumes the place, the dignity, and the validity of all types of work. The verse reads, in all labor there is profit, or in all kinds of labor there is profit. The place and necessity of work is assumed throughout the Old Testament. This appreciation for work grew out of their doctrine of creation. The Israelite or the Jew worked for theological reasons. It was understood that man made in the image of God was to cooperate with God in the management and development of the earth. God had graciously subcontracted aspects of his rule and reign to man. You can read about that in Genesis 1:26-28, and in Genesis 2, verse 15. God had given man dominion over the earth. God had put man in the garden. Work was therefore part of God's original plan. It's not the result of the fall. The Garden of Eden was not an early version of Club Med. There was work to be done, having been made in the image of a working God. Now, there's two things that emerge from the text of Proverbs 14:23. First, it speaks of the essential dignity of work. Work is not a curse, as I've said, or a punishment. The fact is that work was ordained by God before the fall. And while the curse of God, the punishment of God upon sin, the judgment of God upon the earth has made it harder and sometimes futile, frustrating, it did not remove the essential dignity of work. You can read about that in Genesis 3:17-19, 23-24. In all kinds of labor, there is profit. Work is still a good thing, and God is glorified by it. You and I must see work as an integral part of being what God has called us to be. We were created to be creative. Work is not a long, dark tunnel that separates holidays. It's a call to join God in subduing the earth and creating that which is beautiful and beneficial for mankind. We must work not as machines, but as those made after the image of a working God. Our work must be marked by dignity, diligence, and delight. There's a second thing in our text. Proverbs speaks to the equal dignity of work. We've talked about the essential dignity, and now we're talking about the equal dignity of work. By implication, Proverbs 14:23 and the example of Adam and Eve teach us that God views all wholesome work done in his name with equal dignity. You can read more about that. It's amplified in the New Testament in Ephesians 6:5-9, Colossians 3:22-24. Listen, missionaries and ministers are not the only ones doing God's work. Daniel was a government bureaucrat, but he is called a servant of God in Daniel 6, verse 20. It takes all kinds of people doing all kinds of work in all kinds of places for God's will to be done on earth. God can be served at the milling machine, at the kitchen sink, as much as at the altar or in the pulpit. God calls craftsmen to serve him as much as priests and prophets. You can read about how God, describes with great honor those who help build the tabernacle where the priests worked. Exodus 31, 1-11. You see, we can worship God just as much in a pair of overalls as in a choir robe. We've just got to get that down. The Bible knows nothing of a hierarchy of labor. In the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., is a statue of Crawford W. Long, the medical doctor who discovered sulfur ether and its value as an anesthetic for medical surgery. We're all grateful for his discovery, for sure. But here's the interesting thing. Inscribed on the statue are these telling words that will conclude this devotional in a good way. Here's what those words read. My profession is to me a ministry from God. What a good reminder that every Christian has one calling, but many vocations. Our calling is to live for Christ and to the glory of God through each and every day in what we do through work. Please remember that, and I trust that you'll whistle while you work.